And now we'll hear from Her Grace Nirakula Devi. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You need a table?
Hare Krishna.
You want a table for that?
It's okay on my lap, I think.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, actually, I'll put it on the table. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. It's nice to be here with you all. Thank you. My dear Father and Eternal Master, Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. As I sit to try and put into words the depth of my appreciation and gratitude that I have in my heart, I am keenly aware of my inability to comprehend and express my good fortune. I pray that I may somehow please you with my attempt. Srila Prabhupada, you are the perfect example in every way. In every relationship and situation, your mercy knows no bounds. You are grateful to anyone who chants Hare Krishna even once, what to speak of those who have served you and assisted you in fulfilling your Guru Maharaj's instruction and mission. People like George Harrison, who was instrumental in bringing thousands to your lotus feet, or Mr. P.L. Sethi, who did so much to help build the Juhu Beach Temple, or Sumati Murariji, who in spite of her concerns for your age and health, gave you passage on the Jaladuta so that you could come to the west to save the most fallen. They are just a few who, though they never formally became your disciples, did immense service and received your blessings and gratitude. Your blessings even extend to those who know nothing of you. Last night, as I walked to the temple, I was overwhelmed. Here I go, with emotion as I became part of the stream of hundreds of Krishna Bhaktas walking towards the temple to take a 2-minute darshan of Radha Madan Mohan. My heart swelled with joy and gratitude. All of this because with courage and determination, you set out at the age of 69 to spread his mission, the mission of your Guru Maharaj, the mission of Mahaprabhu. Last year, I wrote of my concern that future generations of ISKCON devotees would not understand the importance of your position as founder Acharya of ISKCON. In our humble effort to help devotees feel more connected to you, my husband and I have been spending time with small groups in Calcutta, visiting some of the important places of your pastimes. We visit your birthplace, your childhood places of worship and schools, the port from which you departed on the Jaladuta, and Alta Danga Junction Road, where you first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and received his order to preach in the West, to name a few. We perform Harinam and book distribution in all of these places, as well as discuss their significance. This has been a favorite part of our yatras, not just for us, but happily for all of the participants. Many, if not all, when giving their reflections, talk of feeling more connected to you. The spiritual potencies of these tirthas touch us all very deeply. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19.151, a verse often quoted by you, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Srila Rupa Goswami, Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Kṛṣṇa. By the mercy of both Kṛṣṇa and spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of Kripa, of devotional service. And in your purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.11.17, you wrote, when one receives the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Guru and Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. If one abides by the orders of the spiritual master, by the grace of Kṛṣṇa, he is freed from service to the mind. Freed from service to the mind. Those words really stood out to me. As your disciple, it is my sacred duty to cultivate the garden of my heart, so that the Bhakti-lata beej you have so magnanimously planted in the barren soil of my heart can sprout and develop to its full potential. Srila Prabhupada, everything I am, everything in my life is but a manifestation of your mercy and kindness upon me. I cannot in a trillion births ever repay you, but from the core of my heart, with all the sincerity I can muster, I pray that I can spend all of eternity as your aspiring servant, serving those who are your sincere and surrendered devotees. This body, mind, and soul belongs to you. Please engage me as you will. Your eternally grateful and undeserving daughter, Nirakula Dasi.
The grace Nirakula Devi Dasi ki. I offer my humble obeisances to my beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and offer these thoughts on behalf of our ISV community. Regarding receiving Krishna's mercy, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Sharanagati, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa boli, dai tava pache pache. Krishna is yours, and you have the power to give him to me. I am simply running behind you, shouting, Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa. A godbrother once told me that each disciple runs behind their spiritual master because their spiritual master is also running as a disciple behind their spiritual master. And all devotees are thus running after Kṛṣṇa, the supreme spiritual master. As the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada has set such a pace in his service to his spiritual master that we, his followers at ISV, are all running behind him. In a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote from Bombay to his disciples in New Dwarka on August 14, 1976, he explains this principle of running behind one's spiritual master. My dear sons and daughters, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated August 9th, 1976, and the enclosed dakshina and pictures of the murtis in New Dwarka, which I am having framed and put on my wall here in Bombay. If you feel at all indebted to me, then you should preach vigorously like me. That is the proper way to repay me. Of course, no one can repay the debt of the spiritual master, but the spiritual master is very much pleased by such an attitude by the disciple. In the Bhagavad-gītā it is said, Vyāsa-yatmika bhutir ekeha kurunandana. Those who are on the path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. Our only business is to be fixed up in devotional service by pleasing the spiritual master. Those who are not fixed up, they have various lines of action. Eka means one, and Bahu means many. The real ocean of mercy is Kṛṣṇa, and it is the duty of the spiritual master to tell his disciples to come to the ocean and be happy. The spiritual master's duty is to lead the disciple to this ocean. I am trying my best, and if you try to follow, surely you will benefit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Kṛṣṇa se tomar, Kṛṣṇa dite paro, tomar shakati ache. Ami to kangal, Krishna Krishna boli, dai tava pache pache. Krishna is yours, and you have the power to give him to anyone you wish. I am poor and wretched, and running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. No one can catch him. But if someone follows the parampara, he agrees to be captured. Everyone is afraid of Krishna, but Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda. That is Krishna's special mercy. I hope this meets you all in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. In the above letter, Srila Prabhupada writes, the spiritual master's duty is to lead the disciple to this ocean. I am trying my best, and if you try to follow, surely you will benefit, he says. He reiterates this principle in his purport at Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.30. We have to follow in the footsteps of such devotees, for by this one easy process, one can cross the great ocean of nations, just as one might cross a small hole created by the hoof of a calf. Anyone who wants to advance, that was end quote, anyone who wants to advance in any field of practice needs a pace setter. This is especially true for those who want to reach Krishna, for devotees depend only on the mercy of Krishna for their advancement, and to please Krishna and attract his mercy, one must please Krishna's devotee. Krishna says, Mad bhakta puja vyadika. The worship of my devotees is better than worship of me. In the line of spiritual masters from Lord Chaitanya, there are notable pace setters whom all devotees follow. The 6 Goswamis, for example, are famous for their continuous engagement in varieties of devotional activities, writing books, excavating holy places, building temples, as well as hearing and chanting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote over 100 books and thousands of bhajans, and re-established Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur chanted 1 billion names of the Mahamantra, wrote and spoke Krishna Katha prolifically, and laid the foundation for an international society that would inculcate Lord Chaitanya's teachings to the world. And Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON's founder Acharya, not only did all of the above, but also, using his spiritual master's blueprint, spread the Sankirtan movement to every part of the world. Now generations to come may follow the authorized spiritual path because of the pace that Srila Prabhupada set for those who wish to reach Krishna. And what a pace Srila Prabhupada set. Those who worked closely with his divine grace remember that even as young devotees, it was difficult to keep up with him. Collectively, we are all still running, according to our capacity, behind Srila Prabhupada. Here's a personal example in which I find myself running behind his divine grace, begging for his mercy. Once in San Francisco, when I was blessed to sit before Srila Prabhupada's desk in his room for a darshan, he emphatically said to a small group of us, "You must read my books." His statement inspired me. I already liked reading his books, but now I had a good reason to keep doing it. A few years later, my conviction to read Srila Prabhupada's books was strengthened even more when I read his purport at Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 25, 278. Quote, all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gītā, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure, unquote. Even after so many years of trying, I am still running behind Srila Prabhupada, trying to catch these instructions and fully embrace them. Along the way, I've received inspiration from those who have been running harder than me to do so. For example, a couple of decades after hearing Srila Prabhupada say, "You must read my books," I received some divine inspiration from a dear godbrother to follow this order more sincerely. It was during a Rath Yatra festival in San Francisco when I happened to meet my scholarly godbrother, Hanumat Prashek Swami. Meeting together after many years, he asked me how much I was reading Srila Prabhupada's books. When I replied that I was reading regularly, which was true, he tested me by peppering me with questions from various sections of the Srimad Bhagavatam, many of which I could not answer. By his mercy, I was embarrassed, but inspired to read more extensively and deeply. By my godbrother's words, I felt Srila Prabhupada prodding me, pushing me to pick up my pace in reading his books. Later that day, upon reaching my home, I took a long look at our bookshelf filled with Srila Prabhupada's beautiful books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad-gītā as it is, Nectar Devotion, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Nectar of Instruction, Sri Upanishad, and so on. The more I thought about these spiritual treasures that Srila Prabhupada had left us, the more I realized how substandard my reading of them had been. I had memorized verses and I had read most of the books, but how deeply had I read? I thought, had I covered every paragraph of every book? Was I able to give a dissertation of each one, the way a PhD student might at the time of their oral exams? My answer to myself was no. I suddenly felt incomplete. I lamented for a few days, but then got motivated. I'm going to renew my vow to follow Srila Prabhupada's order to read all his books, I thought. My next thought, however, was, but how? There's so many of them, and I have so little time. I was inspired, but overwhelmed. The answer to my "but how" question came to me the next day when I remembered a talk I had heard by Brian Tracy, a famous motivator. He had said to tackle big, overwhelming tasks, break them into small slices. Of course, I thought, this is a perfect test case, because although there are so many books, each book has a finite number of pages. I'll simply count the pages in each book and then divide the total number of pages into achievable daily slices. With a clear daily reading goal, no matter how small I concluded, I will be able to systematically finish reading all of Srila Prabhupada's books within a defined period of time. Excited about the prospects, I told Sri Vyasa-Pandit Prabhu about it, and he volunteered to help me count and record the number of pages in each book. With these totals, we designed a simple chart listing each book's page count. Sri Upanishad, for example, has 158 pages. Kṛṣṇa, 706. Bhagavad-gītā, 868, and so on. Seeing the numbers for each book, I had a clear target to hit. We next expanded the chart to display categories indicating how many pages we'd have to read to finish each book in a set amount of time. For example, we then knew from our chart that to read the Bhagavad-gītā as it is in 3 months, we'd only have to read 8 pages a day. Or to finish Srimad Bhagavatam in 2 years, we'd only have to read 21 pages a day. Working with another friend, we named the system Be a Sage, page by page. I made and distributed thousands of paper copies of this chart over a few years and eventually turned it into an app. After designing the Be a Sage system, I thought, I will systematically read each one of Srila Prabhupada's books, 1 page at a time. With my new system, my daily reading became consistent, and the more I read, the better I felt. Inspired, I added a month-long reading marathon to my yearly schedule. This consisted of spending a month during Kartik at ISKCON's Govardhan Bhaktivedanta Ashram to focus solely on reading Srila Prabhupada's books for at least 5 hours a day in the company of like-minded devotees. Over time, I also enrolled in Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and Bhaktivedanta study courses. One day, while reading aloud from the Srimad Bhagavatam to a group of devotees at our Govardhan retreat during Kartik, a thought came to me about how, by our prolonged and focused reading, we were all running after Srila Prabhupada, crying, Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Boli, Dai Tava Pache Pache. I thought how Srila Prabhupada painstakingly wrote 80 books in a decade, and that this was his way of running after his guru's order, which was to print books. Although I cannot write books the way Srila Prabhupada did, I can, however, still try to read them with the same kind of energy and enthusiasm that he gave when writing them. Reading his books in this mood would then become my way of running behind Srila Prabhupada, the way he had run behind his guru by writing them. By following Srila Prabhupada's simple order to read his books, I benefit greatly. If I miss reading his books for one day, I feel a loss. Srila Prabhupada told the devotees in San Francisco in 1967, if you chant always Hare Krishna, read my books, and preach this philosophy sincerely, then Kṛṣṇa will provide you with all facility, and you will not fall down into material entanglement. By reading daily, I have also come to appreciate Srila Prabhupada's statement, I shall never die. I shall live forever in my books. Those who read his books feel his presence. Finally, I've come to know that I will never finish reading Srila Prabhupada's divine books, not in this lifetime, nor in subsequent lives. One could spend a lifetime reading just Sri Ishopanishad, or Nectar of Instruction, what to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. One could write a PhD thesis on a single section of the Nectar devotion, or a single verse or purport of Bhagavad-gītā as it is. Success comes from a series of tiny victories, some of them so small that they're hardly noticeable. When I read a single page of any of Srila Prabhupada's books, I count it as one of those victories. A page is so thin that I cannot measure it, but by turning one page at a time and not stopping, I finish a whole book. At ISV, we have planned reading sessions leading up to holy days like Ram Navami and Nrsimha Chaturdasi. And the community has also been memorizing sections of Shastra together. Coming together to read and hear from Srila Prabhupada's books makes us spiritually strong, individually and as a community. We are seeing how Kṛṣṇa counts and records our tiniest of endeavors in his service. Our devotional acts may seem insignificant, as thin as a page, but they all add up. At Sri Ishopanishad Mantra 17, Srila Prabhupada writes, even if a devotee does not remember his godly service at the time of death, the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices, but even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the devotional service of his pure devotee. We pray on this day of Srila Prabhupada's divine appearance, that at ISV we may all remember again and again Srila Prabhupada's simple order, you must read my books, and continue to run behind him by reading his books one page at a time. Om Tat Sat.